I'm Bill Pickett. This is LGP's podcast, Homegrown in the Heart. This is that place in time where we talk to folks who are homegrown in the heart of Washington. That's that little strip of land between Canada and the great state of Oregon and the Columbia River. And we talk to people who have grown up here, who live here, who call this place home. And today, while he was not born here, he has chosen voluntarily to bring his family into the heart of Washington and raise them up and build a law practice that is vibrant and is all about serving the community. That's my partner, my friend, Ryan Griffee. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here, Bill.
You know, this is a podcast that focuses on people who are homegrown in the heart of Washington. That fantastic piece of real estate that runs from the Canadian border all the way down to the Columbia River. And we like to talk to people who were born and raised here, grew up here, and find out some of the things they like about Yakima. Now, that's not you.
It's not me. That's
right.
True.
I would say transplant, but transplant's not the right word. Not the right word. You actually grew up on the other side of the hill. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Burien, which is just near SeaTac Airport.
All right, it's all Seattle. It's all Seattle.
Pretty much.
If you're from Yakima, you grew up on what we always call, not really affinitively, but we call it the coast.
Yeah,
okay.
Or west of the mountains.
Or west of the mountains, or where those folks live over there. Yeah. All right, so tell us a little bit about where you came from in Burien, about kind of growing up there, and then at the tail end, if you give us what spurred you on to take that trek, the wagon trail, and go east, young man.
Yeah. Well, so I grew up in Burien. It's there because it's a close commute to Seattle, and it's close to the airport. So outside you could hear airplanes landing all the time, you know.
You probably still hear the ringing in your ears, right?
Actually, we got we were right at the edge when the third runway was being built.
Oh man.
So a lot of my friends' houses were bought by the airport when the third runway was built.
Okay.
And we had the port put special windows in at our house, you know, to help deal with the noise, the increased noise from the third runway. So we're right there. But the truth of it is that I thought it was the mountains and nothing till Chicago. I was completely ignorant about Central Washington, and I really didn't know. You know, I gotten the opportunity to drive out to Pullman and Spokane and even Montana a couple of times. But even then, you drive, you know, along the 90 through Ellensburg. You don't even necessarily go down to Yakima. I think maybe once in high school we came here for a cross-country meet. And I went through school. I did an extra year in undergrad, and then I did a JD MBA. Like, I was just putting off getting into the real world. I was just like, I'm just going to keep chasing education. Okay. And the end of the line came. And I needed to get a job. Uh-huh. The fact was that I started law school before the Great Recession began, and I graduated right in the thick of it. And
tough times.
And jobs were not plentiful, and I found out about an opportunity out here, and I came out, and I was pretty. It was a first Friday. So I got to go out to some restaurants and there was live music. Like, this is great, you know. But before I came out here, it's just like, I don't know. Do they have a Target? What do they have the basics? Can we make it? You know,
it's a desert.
Yeah. and I was like many transplants. I was somebody that thought, well, I'll go there. I'll get my few years of experience, and then I'll probably move back to a larger city. Okay. And And it ended up being a huge revelation to me once I got here and started to develop relationships and started to see. Also, this community has changed so much since we've been here. I think that there is the question of why did you come, but then to me almost the more important question is why haven't you left?
There you go.
And because this place has changed a lot, even in the short time that I mean, it feels short to me in some ways. It's a lifetime and yet a short time.
How many years under your belt in the Yakima Valley?
12 years.
12 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Right on.
So
you're about to enter those teenage years. Okay?
That's
the
right.
crazy teen years are coming up. All right. So let me stop just for a second. Go back to all your education over on the coast.
Well, yeah. I mean, high school through. I was a purple and gold in high school and in college.
Say it. You can actually say it now.
University of Washington.
20
Husky.
years ago, if you'd have said that, we'd have ended the interview. I mean, that'd be it. But now you can actually say, "Oh, no, I'm a Husky."
Yeah,
I
come from a long. All my siblings actually and all their spouses were all Huskies.
Okay.
But so I was actually the first one outside of that group to get a degree from a different school. I went down to Pepperdine for my graduate school.
Okay, for law school.
And business school.
Talk a little bit about Pepperdine and now. How did the Gold Coast, and Santa Monica, and all the things that Los Angeles has to offer? How did that not just snatch you up and keep you there?
Well, a lot of it had to do with my significant other.
Okay.
When I was happy to get out of Seattle and get away from the rain and the gloom and the traffic and everything there. Now LA has plenty of traffic to go around, but there's more sun. My wife Katie moved down to LA while I was in school, and we were living in Marina Del Rey.
Okay.
And sharing a car. Or sometimes I'd ride a bike to my friend's house and catch a ride with him to campus. Okay. But there were days when I would drive her from Marina Del Rey out to the Fox lot in Century City and then out to Malibu and then do that at the end of the day. So I was in the car 3 hours.
Yeah.
And it's not, you're going 5 to 10 miles an hour stuck on the 10.
There you go, man.
Paying for gas with the little bit that you have left in your credit card to go back to your studio apartment.
And you're listening to that same old music over and over again. Same song.
Sure.
Yeah, right, okay.
And driving inland and it was cool. I actually got to do an internship at the studio that Katie was working at.
Okay.
But it was kind of a windowless building, and it's cool being on the Fox lot and getting to see things there. But but when you think of living in LA, you don't necessarily think of driving inland to a windowless building and spending a bunch of time there, and so I think it's fun. I think LA's fun when you're in your 20s, but we have aspirations at that time of having a family and the idea of trying to compete in that market for resources as a parent would be, I think, pretty tough.
Tough duty.
Yeah. I mean, the cost of living, the cost of housing, everything.
Yeah, and it's only gotten worse, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, so let's fast forward here. You get out of Pepperdine.
Yep.
You don't get out of Pepperdine. It's like they let you out.
You
graduate from Pepperdine.
Yeah.
Start your law career. Where'd you start practicing law?
Stokes Lawrence.
Okay.
Here in Yakima.
Okay. It's okay. You can say your name.
It was great.
Good firm, good people.
Yeah. I made a great friend. I'm still great friends with so many of the people there. I really got to learn from Maury Shore. Who's
fantastic lawyer,
also
wonderful human being.
Yeah, and his wife is amazing as well.
Yep.
I remember Katie and I went and we were meeting with Maury and Donna, and Donna looked up at us and she said, you remind me of us, when me and Maury, when we were your age. Now we're old.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. They were my neighbors at one point in time.
Yeah.
Wonderful. This is Maury short story.
Yeah.
So my middle was like 6.
Yeah.
And he would sneak through the fence over to Maury's yard.
Yeah.
And Maury had a pool there.
Yeah.
And Don was like, "Oh, Grant, you can't come over here without adults, because he's afraid he'd fall in the pool, or something terrible would happen." And so I'll never forget, I marched him over to Maury. And Maury, was really stern. He said, "Grant, I'd love you to come over and swim in my pool and come over, but you need to come over with your parents, so there's adults." And Grant was just like, okay.
Yeah.
It was right. Wonderful people. Anyway, aside story. So Maury courts you over here. First.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and his one of his partners, Dustin Yeager, was looking for somebody to help take over Maury's practice, because Maury's getting close to retirement and things. And so, and Dustin was still a younger attorney at that time. I think he only had like 6 years under his belt at that point in time, and he was trying to take on the monster of Maury's practice at that point in time. So they were fishing for somebody that was interested in transactional work, and
they find this hot young Griffee kid from Southern California that's a whiz.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I got an informational interview. Okay, so more background. Another partner at Stokes Lawrence in their Seattle office, Olivia Gonzalez, I had a great informational interview with her.
Okay.
And so when she found out that the Yakima office was looking for somebody, she said, "Oh, why don't you call Ryan?" Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And there you go. One relationship builds another relationship.
That's right.
And another relationship. And
that's right.
You end up here. Tell me a little bit about I'm always curious about folks who come here from different places and the process by which they made that decision. We're going to pack up.
Yeah.
We're going to go guess what? We're going to the desert.
Yeah.
And we're going to start a life.
Yeah.
And I know some of it's short-term thinking, like, well, this will be a couple of years, but
the
process take us through the process where you started to say to your spouse, "Hey, I'm thinking about..."
Yeah. Well, getting a chance. I was interviewing for different kinds of jobs, and but the job here stuck out to me as a real opportunity. I always knew I wasn't going to be a litigator. That wasn't my passion. I was always interested in contracts and
smart guy.
And putting those pieces together. So I always knew I was going to be on the transactional side. Even before I started law school, I thought of myself as going that direction.
You're dealing with what the trial jocks or the litigators like myself call. We call you the deal makers.
Yeah. So I thought that it was just a great opportunity. I mean, that's all it was. And so I started here actually a few months before we got married.
Oh,
we got married. We were at the time we were living in my mother-in-law's basement.
And she still married you.
She still married me.
Okay, right there.
That's
I mean,
right.
There's a shout out to all those young folks that are thinking about getting married and moving to Yakima.
That's right.
It can happen.
It can happen.
Okay. All right.
And so actually the day after our wedding, we didn't go on a honeymoon. Went and got a U-Haul and said, "Let's get over the hill."
You're like, baby, we're moving. We're going to the Palm Springs of Washington.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And
right. All right.
I found a duplex for us to move into, and started. I think we were happy to have our own space again and have a air mattress, and
there you go. Did you ever think back? I born and raised here, right? So somewhat numb to the surroundings, but I remember coming back, being gone for a while, and I come back and I wake up in the morning, and now I fast forward 25 plus years of being back, I look around, I see the hills, and I go, "Oh, the golden hills of Yakima." But when I first moved back after being away,
Yeah.
they didn't look so gold.
Yeah, yeah.
They looked a little more brown.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember waking up going, wow, I'm back in Yakima again. Do you ever have that feeling when you first move here?
Yeah.
What did I do?
No, I think that we were actually acclimated to it by living in LA. I think that for people who haven't been to LA, in your mind you can think of it as being really lush, and it's not. It's dry. It's sagebrush also.
Yeah.
In fact, on the Pepperdine campus, fires are a big deal. There was a couple big fires while I was there.
Yeah.
And so I think we had developed an eye for the sagebrush and for that desert climb a bit in LA already.
Okay.
So it wasn't as jarring
like
as
what
going,
did I do?
as going straight from Seattle to Yakima might be.
Yeah.
But this place has a way of changing with the seasons. I find that it seems like each season sticks around a little longer than you want it to, but that just holds back, and then you get the relief of the change in the season.
Yeah.
And so it'll be hot, and then you get that break into the fall, and it's just whoosh.
Yeah.
And around March, the hills get pretty green, and like everything, I guess it's embracing impermanence here. It's whatever season. If you're not feeling that season, there's another one coming on its heels. It'll be here before you know it.
Well, and you have acclimated, embraced. That's the word. When I think of Ryan Griffee and yet the Yakima Valley, I really think of this guy who has actually embraced this valley. And tell me a little bit about that process of actually coming to the point where you don't just live here, work here. You actually embrace all that is Yakima. Tell us about that.
Well, I've told you before, but I actually spend an inordinate amount of my time talking to people from Yakima about Yakima, because I think that people that do grow up here, they can almost forget to see the change that's happened. Yeah. And I learned some of the stories about one of the first there's a meeting that gets put together for new residents, and a lot of times they'll have the sheriff or somebody come out, and they'll talk about crime statistics, and they'll explain that in the 80s and 90s, because of a lot of the crime and things that was going on then, that those issues were publicized. And a lot of that was in order to try to get funding to try to help with those issues, federal and state funding. And it's been a challenge, I think, for people to move past that publicity. But I've really been inspired by seeing the different businesses and young people that have come back to this community from other places to start businesses. When I was here, when I first moved here, Bale Breaker didn't exist. There was one brewery, and there weren't a ton of restaurants. There wasn't the movie theater downtown.
Right.
I can kind of go on and on, but the opportunity for entrepreneurship here is been really neat to see. I've witnessed firsthand people going from working basically a waiter job to being a business owner here in the time period that I've been here. And there's huge opportunity to be involved earlier on in your career in a really an outsized way in this community than you can in larger cities. And so I've been able to if I if I was working in Seattle, I'm sure that my practice would be narrower, and and that I wouldn't have had the amount of volunteer opportunities that I've had with the different organizations that that are available to be a part of here.
Yeah. So when you moved over, let's talk a little bit about the people, what's the right word I'm looking for? The reception. There's, I think, sometimes a little bit of hesitancy on the part of folks when they think about Yakima and the valley, that, well, it's a close-knit group of people, pretty hard to break into. If you're an outsider, you're an outsider. I don't think that was your experience. Tell us a little bit about how you, one, came here. You didn't know anybody. You made friendships, and was the community welcoming to you? Was it exclusive or not? I guess I want to know what your reception was like when you got here.
Well, I guess the one thing I'll say is we're not alone. There's other transplants here.
There is.
There's a community of us.
They sneak in occasionally. Yeah. All right.
And so, but I think that it's a combination of things. Through work and now through our kids, we're able to, we make friends with other parents and things like that. Right. I think in some ways, not being, I don't come in with all of the knowledge of all of everyone's luggage.
Okay. Yeah.
So
good point.
I'm able to meet people where they're at, and I think that gives me some, I can meet people with fresh eyes.
Yeah.
And some of my favorite clients are people who are really appreciative of our time, and they don't necessarily feel entitled to it, honestly.
Yeah.
But we can develop real relationships with them. I think that again, not to harp on it too much, but if you're practicing in a skyscraper in Seattle, your client has to go through, who knows how much traffic.
Right.
Park in a basement, go through 3 banks of elevators, 2 escalators, and then they got to get their parking validated after they see you.
Right.
It's, I think, challenging to develop real relationships when you can't just walk in the front door and put your muddy boots on the desk,
Right. No. Right on.
But more than anything, I mean, people respond to you getting the work done, and they appreciate it. They can see when value is added. And so I think it's earned. I don't think that it's just given.
Okay.
And I think that that in terms of professionally, there's high expectations, and in some ways it can be even more challenging because, for instance, I think there's a strong demand for things to be written as short as possible.
Right. Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
And so these 60, 70, 80 page long contracts.
Right.
I mean, sometimes they're necessary, but there's huge demand here that if it doesn't have to be that long, you better not have it be that long.
Right. Yeah. Very good. Well, let's talk a little bit about what you do specifically as a lawyer. So I'm a guy out there looking for a lawyer.
Yeah.
Tell me, one, what kind of lawyer would I be looking for if I say, oh, Ryan Griffee? Oh, I want to give this guy a look.
Yeah.
What do you do with the legal practice?
Well, first I say I'm in the long-term relationship business.
Okay.
So it doesn't really matter to me what your issue is. If we have developed that attorney-client relationship, I want you to think, if you're in some kind of situation where you just think, I think I'd like to get a second set of eyes on this.
Yep.
Or if something happens to you, then I'd want you to pick up the phone and give me a call. And even if it's not my wheelhouse, then because we have that relationship, then you know that I could probably at least get you set in the right direction with a referral or something, and hopefully an in-house referral. But
Okay, good point.
Depending on how niche it is or what the special issue is. So to me, when people are reaching out, they a lot of times maybe they're thinking, well, I want to work on my estate planning, or well, I want to buy or sell a house or a business, or something else is going on. But to me, that's just the start of the relationship, and I'm not here to just make an LLC for you and never see you again. I'm not here to, have you, even if you live in Louisiana and you're selling a property here, I'm going to treat you the same way as anyone else. Mm-hmm. My MO starts and begins with, I'm in the long-term relationship business.
Right on.
Yeah.
So, what would be with that as backdrop for everything you do?
Yeah.
What is the your area of expertise?
My pillars of practice.
I know it's a lot of things, but
yeah,
pillars of practice. There you go. That's a good phrase. I like it.
Yeah. I do real estate, estate planning, business, probate.
Okay.
And they all kind of go hand in hand. And so if something touches and concerns dirt, then I'm a viable option to come talk to.
Right on. Okay.
And but especially for a lot of the intergenerational family businesses that we have here locally, you can't really. It's like a game of pickup sticks. If you're trying to just look at one narrow thing, then you're going to mess up the whole pile. You got to understand some tax law. You got to understand some estate planning and how these different things fit with the goals of the family, especially if they're trying to transition the business to the next generation. And you gotta understand a little bit of psychology too, because you gotta understand the egos that are involved and what people's real motivators are. And so a lot of times it's just starting with, well, what are the client's goals? And then what can I do to add value to that situation? Yeah.
Good, excellent points. The one thing I take away this from just our little exchange right there is that, and they don't teach this. They don't teach relationship 101 in law school.
No, they do not.
They do not. And I'm like, we need to start that class. We need to start because everything we do as lawyers is so fundamentally knitted to and connected to relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're like thinking, oh, but I didn't become a lawyer to have relationship.
Yeah.
But the reality is, yes, you did.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's anyway.
Yeah.
Excellent
I
point.
refer to them as soft skills. And part of what I see is that you do get a chance to develop those soft skills earlier in your practice here because you get more client interaction. It just happens and clients don't walk through the door with only one problem, so you got to be able to at least issue spot.
right. Yeah, and hopefully articulate something in some form or fashion that's relational to another human being. I'm pretty in my mind, I'm very big on this topic of relationship because it's so important. Even in our dynamic as partners, there's relationship aspects of that are so critical and sometimes overlooked. So on that point,
yes.
All right, we're going to scroll into you. I know we talked a little about the starting of practice here in the Valley. Some of the folks who were very instrumental to you, Maury being one of them.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about this thing called LGP.
Yeah.
What on earth? What on earth are you thinking? Tell us a little bit about LGP. You are the managing partner of that firm.
Yeah.
God bless you. That can't be easy. I know it's not easy. Tell us a little bit about that transition and your thinking behind this entity called LGP.
Yeah. So I was, in a lot of ways, sitting on a huge opportunity with our other partner, Paul Larson. So I joined Paul in 2015, we had worked on another transaction together when I was at Stokes, and he kind of said, he planted some seed, and maybe you should give me a call sometime, kind of thing.
He is a great seed planter.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
And I came over and started working with Paul, and our practices really align with one another. And I was thinking about what the future of the firm was looking like. Paul's other partners, the two Jims, Jim Berg and Jim Perkins, were
fine lawyers,
fine
trial lawyers,
fantastic lawyers. And honestly, I wish they were all younger, so I would have gotten more time with them, because we did have fun.
The trial jocks wear out fast.
Yeah,
you already know that. But anyway, all right.
But unfortunately, my wishes for them to be younger didn't come to fruition.
Yep.
But I felt that being a full service firm was in my client's best interest, because there were a few different ways that Paul and I could have gone. We could have gone and said, well, let's just be a boutique shop. Let's just focus on the transactional stuff and just tell our clients, sorry, if you got an issue, we just get. You're going to have to get outside counsel for these things, and I think Paul and you connected.
Yep.
I don't know exactly how that happened, but you guys started talking with each,
sprinkling seeds.
Yeah. And then you and I got to talking, and I felt some familiarity with you right away.
Yeah.
I could tell that there was some exciting potential, and the experience that I knew that you had, I felt that you could be the right person to lead a litigation department going into the future, and that I do think of our firm as being a little bit like, you've got the preventative medicine side, and then you've got the emergency room,
right?
And so so I needed to figure out, were we going to be able to maintain both of those things and build that into the future. And we didn't have, I think there are places that have to deal with more politics, because there's more partners involved in things, but it was pretty, it's down to me and Paul. And so if Paul and I it made us pretty nimble to be able to take a chance. And so you presented this idea of, what about this PI piece? Yeah. And
you were like, what do you mean
work?
PI?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Private investigator?
That's right.
But and there are other PI firms, and I've seen, those PI firms, that's all they do.
Right.
What's that about? And I came to realize that, the reason that a lot of those places, they have to advertise a lot is because their client relationships are mostly one-offs.
Correct.
Most of the time, if people are getting in a lot of car crashes.
If somebody gets in multiple catastrophic events, you're like, what's going on there?
Yeah. But but being in the long-term relationship business, I thought, well, that's interesting. I wonder if there's something different that we can present here with this other perspective, where, if someone gets a settlement or something like that, maybe they also want help with thinking, how do they manage those funds? Do they need to consider their estate planning as part of it? Because again, clients don't walk through the door with only one problem. Do they need a probate if someone has passed away? You know what? So it intrigued me, the idea of being able to approach PI work from a more holistic perspective. And so that idea, and that I thought, well, we really don't have anything like that in this market, and that could be really interesting.
Well, it brings so much completeness to the representation. That's the part that I found super interesting, in that over the years, representing people purely in the personal injury aspect of their life, and then really you don't know what that next step is. You resolve a claim for them. And the personal injury world is about recouping compensation. That is your focus in trying to find some healing and restoration through that process for clients. But then you're done. You're done.
Yeah.
And to be connected with partners in a firm that literally can take clients after that recovery process has been complete on the injury side and take them into that next level is really a huge blessing and super exciting. And we've experienced that already in the short time that we've been in partnership. So I agree.
I'm glad to see we've been able to have some proof of concept come together
and to see it and go, wow, that actually does work. People you just don't say, okay, very nice, pleased to represent you, goodbye. It's like, hey, now let's take where you're at and let's move on to this next level. And here's my partner, and they can do wonderful things for you too. I always say that LGP primarily was birthed. It was birthed because you're very fluent in speaking high conflict personality.
Sure.
Okay. Because trying to mesh, here's the challenge, right? I mean, the big challenge is meshing transactional lawyers and their practice and their way of thinking with trial lawyers. And it doesn't always align. But the part where I think we align really deeply is through the heart connection of wanting to serve people. That's the part that I saw, like, no matter whatever, miscommunication, that I may put out there, and it's typically from my side of the equation, I admit that. There's a heart alignment with service to people, which is really special. Anyway, and I say, thank you to my partner, to my managing partner, for being able to put all this together in an amazing way.
Absolutely.
So where is this train headed?
Well, I'm really excited about the future. I've got my mind on hiring. And continuing to build the team. I say putting together a coalition of the willing.
There you go.
I think that we present unique opportunities for people, especially if there's litigation people who are interested in getting actual trial experience.
Right.
We're continuing to build a team of people that are interested in service and that are interested in learning and growing and having a diverse practice, because we serve a really a staggering variety of clients. And fortunately we have space in our building to continue to grow,
thankfully.
And we've got some fun ideas for things we can do with our ample space that we can work with. I'm gonna keep those under wraps for right now, but I'm excited about the potential for the building itself. And but we've got to let people know first, because we spent about 50 years telling people we do everything except criminal law, everything except family law and PI.
Right.
To now, now we do PI. So got to let people know that.
Retooling of sorts. And I always say it this way. I say, where's LGP heading? Right. Well, we're heading to change the world. And the way legal services are delivered, and if people want to, and we just didn't. We're in the interview process. I know you and I were neck deep in this, interviewing and looking for that next person to come in. But if you are in the I want to serve human beings business, and that's I just want to light the world on fire and make that a better process in the legal world, in the legal profession, then we are the place. Because I truly believe, LGP has this idea that everything in the practice of law can get better. And we can be at the forefront of making it better. The delivery of services to people in need, the delivery of services to people who have questions, and to how that all works. And the team that you have assembled, right, Coach,
Yeah.
You're the coach, and you're shaping that process. I think thus far is astounding. It's amazing, and it's generating incredible change, positive change in people's lives.
Yeah.
So,
and I'll
super
just tag on there that also I do want to say that we're committed to getting people the right tools to do the job, and that means trying to keep abreast of the constant changes in technology, which continues to come along.
Yeah.
But we want our people to have the best resources, the best tools, so that they can focus on the work that needs to get done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right on. So, Ryan, thank you for taking time this morning to be here to chat with us. Let us know a little bit about who you are and the direction LGP is heading. And the call to action today is that if you are looking for a place, you are looking and have a deep desire to serve your community, give us a call, lgplawfirm.com. We may have a place for you. This is about building community. It is about serving other human beings and making life better in a way that changes the world. That's LGP. That's what we're all about. Thanks for joining us.